David Block is our next guest. He's a local filmmaker, a documentary maker, if you will, telling the story of a local athlete who is paralyzed in a football accident. David Block joins us now. David, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I guess the first ground we should cover, and a lot of people ask you this,
yes.
You are legally blind.
That is correct. I am legally blind.
And you've had a vision problem since the very beginning.
Yes, I was born with congenital cataract, so I have partial vision, yes. So
the first question is, as a filmmaker, how do you do it?
Well, first of all, I don't operate the camera. If I operated the camera, it would look terrible. No, I basically produce and direct. I come up with the idea for a documentary. I would know the subject matter, and I would basically tell the camera person what to do, and I would find someone to work for me as inexpensively as possible, because most of these documentaries have come out of my own pocket. So I would, you know, I would just tell them what to do. I would transcribe and edit. I mean, there's a lot more to making the documentary than holding a camera. I mean, you see on the credits producer, director, stuff like that.
And there are lots of challenges besides having good vision as well.
Oh, yes. There's plenty of challenges.
You mentioned raising money and paying the bills and how you did these out of your own pocket. This is your third documentary.
That is correct.
Is that how you're still making them?
Unfortunately, yes. And I mean, I go to people I know for money, and I beg and, well, I mean, I ask for money and I convince them that there's a need for the documentary. And it is very difficult. The fundraising is actually more difficult than making the documentary itself, and paying the bills is even more difficult.
Now, in your professional life, you've worn many different hats.
Yeah, that's
a
correct.
Journalist, and I know you cover athletes a great deal, and
yes.
You yourself have done some running, which might surprise people too.
Well, yeah, maybe, I don't know if it's so much because of my vision problem, maybe because I'm not as thin as I used to be, but I still run, yes. In fact, I ran the New York Marathon, you know, almost every year. I run with the Achilles Track Club, a track club for people with disabilities, but they, it's a segment, we run the marathon every year, so it kind of gives me a goal and keeps me from getting too overweight, but I do run it.
And back in 1991, you were writing for Runner's World, if I'm not mistaken.
I was a freelancer for Runner's World, and I'm still a freelance writer for Runner's World, and that was how I came up with the idea for Brian's Run. I started covering Brian's Run in '91.
Tell me about Brian.
Brian Bratcher, oh, he's a very interesting person. He was a high school football player for Westchester Henderson High School on August 26, 1978. It was a Saturday. He was in a high school scrimmage against this team, McCaskey, and he became paralyzed. And he became severely paralyzed, and so he went from being a great athlete to being confined to a wheelchair. And interesting, his story is that the town of Westchester they liked the Bratcher family. Brian was a very likable guy, so they put on a race to help him and his family defray some of the high medical costs. And Brian was so touched, he said, let's have this race every year, but help people worse off than me. So as a result of Brian's gesture, Brian's Run has become a Westchester tradition. I mean, most people in Westchester know Brian's Run. It's like synonymous.
Let's take a look at a part from Brian's Run.
Thank you. In December 1991, I was assigned by Runner's World magazine to cover a seemingly ordinary 10,000-meter race in Westchester, Pennsylvania. I was amazed to discover that this race was anything but ordinary. Brian's Run began in 1978 as a result of a tragic accident.
On August 26, 1978, I was getting ready. I remember that day very well. That I had broken my neck.
Well, it looks fascinating.
Thank you.
What kind of reaction have you gotten from people so far?
Well, family members and friends who have seen the earlier versions of it said it's improved a lot.
From your first documentaries,
well,
or
no,
from the first time they saw this?
From the earlier
from
the earlier rough cut. Some of the my first rough cut I did back in December was terrible. People have said it's improved a lot. Family members, I mean, people, I think people have seemed to like it. I haven't shown it to too many people because I want them to come to the screening June 14th.
Funny you mentioned that. I thought I was just about to tell people how they can go see it. If you'd like to see Brian's Run on Friday, June 14th, it's going to play at 7 p.m. at the Prince Music Theater's Black Box Theater at 1412 Chestnut Street If you'd like tickets, information, give them a call at 215-735-3785 or log on to our website at nbc10.com and look for the link to our show 10 for more information. David Block, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Forward to seeing the film.
Thank you so much for having me.
Still ahead, Steve is back in the kitchen when we return.